Good evening. Yeah.
It's 5 p.m. here in Seattle, and I think it's is it 10 for you, Omar? I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, let's get started. We're live. Let's just kick this off on the fast track. I'm assuming Milan, I know that Gregory left a comment in
Mm-hmm.
there in the PR. Let's just take a quick look here and see what he talked about. He basically was talking about uh, the models, the distribution of the model based on the folders.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you here in a second why that is important. Let's see here. There's this guy. I think his comment was on this one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Christo opened up a PR upgrade a.net. I didn't know he did that. I think he upgraded the versions on all of these. Okay, fantastic. All right, thank you, Greg. Thank you, Krista. Appreciate that. All right, I'll approve this one and I'll merge this one so that goes in. It doesn't conflict with anything that you're building. But let's just go back to what Gregory was talking about. He basically said currently the new folder namespace are currently like so. So there's models, AIs, configurations, and then foundations, and then AIs, informations, queries. And then you have services and all that. That looks okay to me. Now, we should probably change that folder name to something like Open AIs or something like that, but it's not something I'd lose a sleep on. And then he said, I think they should be more like datas, models, datas.
Yeah, exactly what was before, right? So I nested informations and queries under
Nope,
datas,
nope,
and we
nope.
discussed that last session.
Yep, nope, nope, nope. That, I think what you did is right. The models can define. There are specific models under particular categories. So you could have models under foundations, under processings, and so on and so forth. No, this is not this. That's what we discussed
Mm-hmm.
last session, Gregory. If you go back to that session, you'll see that that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish there. And then of course back to this. This is just for the people watching this. You see this red, green, red, green, red, green. That basically is Milan actually truly test driving his code. He's truly pushing failing code and then back again. See, fail, red, pass, green, fail, red, pass, green, fail, red, pass, green, and so on and so forth. This is great code, right? Because you get to look at that and basically say, yeah, I know it's not just someone who was playing with history. They actually pushed that and it failed. And then by the time they made the implementation. So this is all great. I think that should be okay. I hope Gregory is watching this. He'll be able to, or otherwise, I'm gonna have to leave a comment there.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think. How do you feel about this PR? Do you think it's in good shape now?
I mean, I still have some questions, and I would. I mean, also when I watch these sessions, I would also like more questions from people.
Yeah,
That's how we run. I mean, Hassan has like more than 20 years of experience. He understands why he's doing things, but
yeah.
we should not just accept things. We should ask and learn from Hassan as well. That's what I miss. Like when I sometimes watch the session. So maybe let's discuss this folder structure first again,
I hope
for us
so,
to
but
understand what's happening here.
I hope so. But before any of that, what is
Mhm.
that? Is that you? Where did that come
Uh,
from?
yeah, that was me, but yeah, that's now I'm just reorganizing. I didn't make changes there. So that's
I was like, wait a second. Did I go into a Python?
no, no, no. I think when I did it, that was
Was that auto-generated, maybe?
that no, that's suggesting the format. Yeah, I'm getting some strings. I think that are concatenated or something. I'm not sure. Uh, and
Okay,
then
so
yeah.
so
Hmm.
okay, so schema table
Yeah,
name, and then
exactly.
What
No,
is
no.
that? So anyway, so what I'm trying to tell you here is for this particular folder, right? Um, uh, in addition to this, the one other comment I would have for this would be so get rid of this underscore, call it something else like key. So if you're on keys, then call it key. That would be
Hmm.
more that would be more meaningful. And then let's see here. Omar says a sample folder structure is it might be good addition to the standard appendices. A sample folder structure. Yeah, that's Omar, that's what I was talking about
Yeah.
yesterday. If you go
Hmm.
to Christo's the standard team, right? If you go to Christo's practices, he basically collected all of that. Look at this folder structure. He basically went and said brokers, date times, and then you have your models, foundations, posts, exceptions.
Yeah, I missed that. Sometimes you move too fast.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
But
good.
also I think I use that as a reference as well. So but when I look at it, okay, I see models and then I see foundations inside.
Uh-huh.
So um, first question, why not services and then foundations or uh,
Hmm. Why not services? I don't know why not services because
because
models
yeah. Hmm.
models are shared across brokers and controllers. I think maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, someone suggested that, and they said, "Hey, how come you're not putting services?" But the truth is, for models, models is just shared. Like, let me show you. Like when we present our structure, our tri-nature structure, we basically go and say something like this. We basically say you have your tri-nature of things is really a controller and a service and a broker, right? So uh, that's your red, blue, sorry, green and blue structure, right? And so that's I'm gonna be even more generic. I'm gonna say exposure and or exposer, and you have a service and you have a broker, right? And the thing that links all of these together are one or many models. So the model sits right there. It's not tied up to any particular service or anything like that, right? So it is possible that you will find the same model, like our most classic structure ever is a model that travels from a database to a service to an exposure layer. It doesn't change, which is
Hmm.
our argument against the school of thought, which is very popular school of thought in the industry that says, oh, you need to have a DTO, and with that pattern and that principle, they introduced even more complexity by adding mappers, auto mappers, right? So it got even more complicated. And then just in the last couple of years, now you're starting to hear voices in the community that says auto mappers are crap. We shouldn't be using auto mappers. They're slowing they have performance issues. We really shouldn't have started with auto mappers, or we've been saying that for years, years and years, right? So in some schools of thought, they will go and say this. They will say, "Oh, there is two models, and somewhere here, some of them don't even believe in services. They will do that in the controller directly. And these folks are, I have nothing to say to them. But the folks that have a little bit of knowledge and they do this, they do like you have your DTO in here, and I think they call it domain model. Just add extremely additional dependencies. We are extremely against that school of thought. Do not use DTOs. Do not use automappers. It complicates things. That's not how software is supposed to be. So
But
anyway, so
mhm.
I guess that's just a long-winded way of me saying that's why we don't add services. You know, I don't know. So
It's
that's my
not.
two cents.
No.
What did you say, Kay?
That's not how software is supposed to be, but that's how software is right now.
Yeah, that that never stopped us, right? Like we never basically we never basically went over and said, oh, well, that's since everyone is doing it this way, Like one of the people that I learned software from, his name is David Polara. And one of the things that he used to say, that's like probably 15 years ago, one of the things that he used to say, don't go with the flow. Only the dead fish would go with the flow. Just because an entire industry is taking the wrong direction, it doesn't mean that you have to turn into sheep and just go wherever they're going. You need to have your own kind of, which is pretty much what Milan was just saying just a second ago. He said, just because Hassan has some experience in the industry doesn't mean that we can't ask questions and kind of give feedback. And that's the whole idea of the standard, right? The standard is basically, are we as a community in agreement that something doesn't make sense, even though it's the most popular thing. I don't care who did it. I don't care who said it. I don't care if people have been using it for millions of years. It's still subject. It's not holy text. It's subject for interpretation. It's subject to be shut down at any point in time. And there was a lot of people in this industry that, like I know a very popular computer scientist who is regarded as one of the biggest scientists. I don't know if it was Donald Knuth or someone else who said nobody else is, no other programming language will be needed after COBOL, right? So COBOL, he said that's it. We don't need any other programming language, and hundreds of programming languages appeared after that, much more efficient, smarter. This is why I say like the standard is a set of theories and principles and patterns, and then these produce tools. So tomorrow, if the whole world said, well, C# is crap, and we decided to go use Scala or anything like that, still standard compliant. In fact, for the people, a lot of people misinterpret the standard as a .NET specific thing. It's not, right? So when I first started developing theories around the standard, I was writing Scala code. So don't get these two things mixed up. C# is just a tool. The standard is a set of principles and theories and patterns. These theories and patterns applies to everything. It's like me telling you be nice. You could be nice by helping someone on the street, or you could be nice by opening the door for someone. It's a principle, right? You can apply it in so many different things. So anyway, that's just to answer your question, Milan. Just for the interest of time, I will review your PR. Is there anything else missing in that PR that you want us to look at, or do you feel like this is ready for review?
I mean, I got some additional questions. Maybe I can go and answer
Yeah,
those.
yeah, let's do that.
Um, okay, so if we do a separation by the model,
Mm.
how do we call a broker that does return a dynamic model?
Well, dynamic is a native model, right?
Hmm.
So native models like strings, especially primitive models like strings and ints and dynamic and list and all of that, they're part of the framework itself. So we don't do anything about it. We just try to maintain consistency in the input output models, right? So
Hmm.
the purity of the model or the single model, that's the only thing. So if your broker is something that goes something like this, let me just show you. If your broker is doing something like this, dynamic, dynamic, do something, right? I'm totally okay with that. Whatever you're doing in here, I don't care, right? However, if your input is student like this, now we have a problem, right? Because something else is going on there, right? In fact, I might actually allow you to do this if we consider dynamic to be a primitive type, which it is. Like in the .NET framework, it's considered a primitive type, right? It's a keyword basically, right? But if you go and say like this, that's not okay because both of these are local models. So now you started to break that truly the single responsibility or domain controlled kind of routines that you're trying to develop. It becomes
Hmm.
a huge problem. By the way, just so you know, these things, the thing about, like, I am talking enterprise level systems. If you're building a to-do app or a mom and pop grocery shop app, you won't really see the immediate impact and benefit of these strict rules. Because someone asked me this the other day. They said we were building a what was he saying? We were building a library kind of system, right? And I don't see why I can't just add a fourth service to my orchestration service. Like the world is not going to fall apart. And I said to him, it's going to fall apart once you start having a fifth and a sixth service. And people continue to ask for these things. Your system, your mindset is not scaling. You're not scaling proper. So you won't see the impact of these things until you start building systems that are supposed to process millions, hundreds of thousands of requests every day. You start seeing very clearly, especially if you want people to come out from the street and start supporting you. It becomes a huge problem, right?
Mm. Yeah, I thought of that as well. But then, yeah, the standard seems like it's managing complexity. As much complexity you have, the more you see the benefits of the responsibilities. I mean, everything is around the responsibilities and separation of concerns. But okay, can we go back to the PR and look at
Uh-huh.
the brokers, like folder?
Yeah. So let's go back here. So in the brokers folder,
Uh,
you have a data broker, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you expand the whole solution, we would say like brokers, AIs, and then datas, and then AI broker and data broker, right? Uh,
Mhm,
so when I see broker, I mean, what I would expect is to exactly know what this broker is doing, right? When we have
mhm,
data broker, like it's kind of abstract.
mhm,
It's as you mentioned sometime one catch term, like it catches everything.
mhm.
So shouldn't we have more like concise naming here or
It's up to
AI broker as well? I mean, uh-huh.
it's up to you. What as long as whatever sits behind the word broker describes the domain, and as long as you maintain the word broker, so you're indicating something that's not smart. It's not doing anything smart. It's just an
Mhm,
interface for something else. As long as we agree on these two conditions, then we should be okay,
mhm,
right? And Kailu will tell you this, and I will tell you this. Even after all these years, just hear me out because this is very important. Even after all these years, we still haven't solved for the complexity of sequencing in brokers. So brokers are not supposed to have sequencing, it's not supposed to have selection, and it's not supposed to have iteration. We solved for two, but the third one always pops up in every other project, which we're trying to solve for. What I mean by that, every programming language out there, when we define business logic, we define business logic as one of these three things, right? So when I say a selection, right, I'm talking about if else. Your broker is not supposed to have that. It's not supposed to have catch. It's not supposed to have while, what is it, switch. This is all business logic, right? So that's the selection world. You can't have that in there. And it can't have iteration. You can't have for each, do while do. You can't have what is it? For. You can't have any of these iteration forms. By the way, any programming language in the world, again, the tri nature of things, it will fall into one of these three things. Any statement you will ever write in programming, it's either sequencing, selection, or iteration. There's nothing else you can do in any other programming language, right? So the third one is the problem that we try to solve for, which is sequencing. Sequencing is like what? You go and say int x equals 0, int y equals 0, and then return x plus y. That's sequencing.
uh,
A broker is supposed to be something that does exactly this. Return some external thing, and then some method. And it's just passing in parameters in here, some param. That's all it's supposed to do. It's supposed to do configurations. It's supposed to do this, but we always fall into that trap. And
yeah,
I
like
still
yesterday, right?
exactly just like yesterday,
Uh,
right? Exactly like that, right? Like you will always run into this problem. And up until today, like I'm saying, we're trying, you just said it yourself. The standard is about controlling complexity, right? Now, there is a solution for it. It's just too damn hard. And I'll explain to you in a second. Kailu, were you going to say something?
Where does mapping fall into?
Huh?
Where does mapping fall into?
Where does the mapping goes? Oh, the mapping goes into, the mapping is basically if else, because you're basically saying for if you have a incoming model, right? It's sequencing and mapping is sequencing and selection. Because if you have incoming model and you have local model, you go and say local model dot x equals incoming model dot x, and then local model dot y.
Mm,
So it's kind of sequencing incoming model dot y and so on and so forth. Unless you're iterating on multiple models, there you go. It's like sometimes they will mix together. But yeah, this would be under sequencing for sure, like that. There's no statement that you can write in any programming language that doesn't fall under these three. It just doesn't happen. And I did
Uh,
say, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm feeling iteration and the what's the first one? Selection. They're
Selection.
kind of, yeah, selection and iteration. They are kind of the subset of sequencing because they're like kind of doing things in orders, right?
You could say that until you see a statement like, is this sequencing here? You consider this sequencing?
Mm,
yeah, right. I mean, you
How is it
first ask
sequencing?
whether
mm,
x is null, and then you return y.
You
that's
could.
a selection. That's a
It's a
selection.
selection. It's an if statement. It could be both. It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is just one or the other, right?
Hmm.
But again, going back to this piece that I'm talking about, like brokers, if we define these as business logic, then no broker should have any of these three. Because if you have any of these three, what does that mean? It means that you need to test that. But brokers outside of the unit testing zone, it's in the acceptance and integration testing zone. And then there's performance testing, load testing, so many different other tests. We're just kind of scratching the surface and telling people, hey, here's three things you're supposed to have because I like number three. So here's three things that you can remember. It's a good marketing strategy too. You could tell people three things that you have to remember every day in the morning. And here you go, right? So anyway, just going back to this, the reason why I'm talking to you about that, just to kind of catch my thoughts here, is you see a situation like this, right? Ideally, I would make the constructor take care of that, right? And then go and say, oh, whatever that thing that we initiated is, then go ahead and wrap that internally. And then we got hit on the head with the idea of unit of work. And we want just because we instantiated an instance of a broker, it doesn't mean that it cleans up after itself. It doesn't. So we ended up doing this hacky nonsense, but we have to get rid of it at some point in time. But I'm not trying to kind of criticize, something. We fall into that trap ourselves.
Hmm.
If it says anything, it just says that we still have quite a bit of way to go.
Hmm.
There's the sky's the limit. Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I looked at the exposures in the standard, and if we depend on a standard compliant library in the broker, I think this issue almost goes away,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, it's like the SQL parser yesterday. Like, if we have a wrapper on top of it that we just pass a string to it,
Yep.
and we don't do any sequencing. So yeah, like the happy path is we depend all our external libraries are actually standard compliant, and we have a
Yep.
single client, single method. That's it, right?
Yep, that's why I said we have a solution for it. It's just too damn hard. What I mean is, in order for you to build any domain system, you have to rely on also a standard compliant utility system. It's just too damn hard. Like building a library, it takes a lot of time and effort, and you have to maintain it and you have to upgrade it. Unless there are nice people like Christo out there and Gregory that will just go in and be like, let me take care of this work that nobody wants to do. Let me upgrade the libraries. Let me upgrade the pipelines. Let me make sure all libraries are up to date, right? Because also remember, We don't create our pipelines to auto upgrade, and we don't use toasters to do that for us, because more often than ever, the toaster will go and up the version, and then everything will fail. And you don't know why, because you didn't push any new code. And now good luck go digging to see what happened. It's just a nightmare. It happened to it happened to me once. I had a team of 9 people investigating the issue, and it ended up that someone decided to put .xx. Do you guys know that trick? Like, you can go in here and basically do something crazy like that. If I go into any project in here, you can basically go like this and say, "Oh, I want .6.4.x.x," like this. You know what this does? It will go and pull the latest. Every time there's a new version, it will try to get the latest for you. And good luck finding out the solution that you just built yesterday doesn't build today without you changing any code. What happened? If you want someone to tell you stories about this, go ask the Node and JavaScript folks, right? They had this thing where they basically went and said, "Oh, I have this npm library. I'm gonna do this and then upcar it like this," meaning upgrade all minor changes, and then they get burnt by it day and night, right? So they get burnt by it, be like, "Oh my God, someone put a virus in an npm library." Some dude sitting somewhere in the middle of nowhere pushing code into an npm, and people are just naively just pulling that code and building it. That's another reason why we need standard compliant libraries, because um, Omar and Milan, you might not have been around when we talked about this, but the other reason why we want to have no domain system dependent on non-standard compliant library is because of that, exactly that reason, that people do stupid crap into their libraries, right? And then you end up being surprised. You wake up one nice morning and the whole world is on fire. Oh, someone decided to put spyware into their software. They think it's funny. Oh, I'm poor. I need to make some more money. So let me put viruses in 500 million machines around the world. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
so so we have to have standard compliant, not just because of the quality of the software, but the quality of the principles that the people that are building that software are. I think Gregory put something called the standard promise, right, on Clean Mock, and he talked exactly about these pieces. He basically said, our promise is that we're going to deliver very high quality software, and we're not going to jeopardize or by the way, just also you understand, Christo have been calling for days and days for us to build a standard org on GitHub. So it's not tied to an individual, it's tied to the community, right? So even if I go crazy and decide to put viruses in there, someone like Gregory or Christo or Kailu or anybody be like, no, you lost your mind. Yeah, great, you built that community, but you lost your mind. We're gonna block you. We're not gonna let you put viruses in there, which is great. That's the beauty about this community, right? That's the beauty about open source. Okay. So anyway, just going back to this piece, for you about you wanted the a comment about the broker. I hope that at least addresses your question in one way or another. And I'm sorry I do talk a lot, but I have all these ideas that I'm trying to kind of share. It becomes a little bit harder given the
I
time.
mean, that's how we learn. So yeah, just go with it.
You know, I mean, just so you know, there are people out there that are standard-ish. They will take some pieces and go implement it, but they will kind of distance themselves from the community because they're not following it down to the last minute of detail, right? But then more often than ever, they find out later, oh, shoot, I should have probably done it this way, like they were talking about. Because you're adding like 400 years of experience, accumulative experience. It's mine plus Gregory plus Paul Wardy plus Kailu plus 500,000 people from everywhere. So if you decide to divert from that, good luck. Let us know how it goes, and maybe we'll learn from you. If it doesn't, then come back and be reasonable about your software. Anyway, so that's just my comment here. I think this is okay. I don't have anything here on this data
Hmm.
broker. right?
Uh, mhm. I think no, I just changed the folder structure there, so I didn't change anything in that broker. Uh,
I'm okay with that.
but
Brokers
but
slash datas.
mhm.
Okay.
Also, what I wanted to ask, so if there are multiple services sharing same broker, they would also share same exception models that are coming from
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So how do you? Mhm.
But these exceptions are external, right? External or
Uh,
native.
yeah, there are some external ones, and then we localize them and categorize them into some other ones. So those localized and categorized ones are the same in both services that use the same broker.
No, they're not. I'll tell you why. That's actually a great question. They could be. It could be. I'm not gonna lie to you. They could be. But let's just say you have. I'll tell you from my experience, and you tell me what you think. If you have some kind of let's say you have storage broker, right? An storage broker is emitting a SQL exception, right? So in a student service, this SQL exception will turn into failed student storage exception.
Hmm.
In a teacher service, it will be a failed teacher storage exception. Do you know why we do it this way? If tomorrow you decide to go and have the teachers saved in a MySQL or MongoDB and your students in a SQL database, your local model doesn't change.
Hmm.
Again, enterprise. What happens when your application becomes a million user application and people decide to normalize and distribute and have like a critical path and hot storage, warm storage, and cold storage? And they start going and saying, well, the archive models are cold storage. So let's just put them on a Glacier or something really cheap. So now you have a completely different storage broker, different from the one that you're using to save students or save teachers. That's
Hmm.
why we localize. It's true abstraction. It really
Yeah.
is. So even though it is the same exception that's coming from the same dependency, that exception is literally, that's why we say localized. It's localized to the service.
Yeah,
It's
now
it.
I see a danger when I call things like failed query exception because it's too broad to catch the.
Mhm.
So if you localize that into failed query exception, it can go under both services, but it doesn't say which service failed.
It has to have something from the
Mm-hmm.
service that's living in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like speaking a language. It's like speaking a language in every country, right? It needs to have that DNA in it. It's very important. My man, when you're if you go to App Insights, right? Do you know how fast it is to detect issues if you just see in your App Insights failed teacher storage exception? It'll take you 1 second before you start telling your engineers that work with you, oh, SQL is failing. Just by seeing this one thing. Do you know what engineers do today? They look at a huge stack trace, and the stack trace is absolutely blinding. Do you understand? It's blinding. Like, good luck to if you're dyslexic or something like that. Oh my God, it's a nightmare because you have all that. You know what I'm talking about. You're a senior engineer. Right? Imagine the difference, just the difference, right? So, so let me tell you this, Kailu, if you see something, if you see something like already exists student exception, how hard would you to, now, and you're seeing the student ID and we're done. The story is over. The story ends right there, right? Do you know what it looks like when you're not standardizing? It looks like this. It will go and say exception and then a whole bunch of garbage. Let me just show you a whole bunch of garbage. And then in the middle of that garbage, it will go and say foreign invalid reference. And then a whole more garbage like this. And then it'll go and say SQL some kind of number. Good luck, right? Why are we torturing ourselves like that? It's not worth it. Huge advantage.
because people are lazy and don't want to do the right thing.
Exactly. Or just don't know how to do the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's just laziness. Yeah.
But by the way, Milan, like in our journey, like just as a bunch of engineers, in our journey, we've seen three types of people, right? There are the people that will know the standard and follow the standard. And then there are the people that will know the standard and go the exact opposite, knowing what the right thing is to do, but they'll go the opposite. And if you ask them, you'll be like, "Oh, you don't have to do a good design. It's a temporary thing." Have you ever heard that before? You hear someone says, "Oh, and don't worry about the good design. It's a temporary thing," right? And before you know it, that application is deployed to production, and people are having a celebration, a big party, like a 200 people executives party, telling you we went to production with this absolute piece of crap, right? Okay, so there are the people that will know the standard and not follow the standard because of whatever excuse BS out there. Oh, it's a temporary project. We don't have the time for it. We don't have the budget. We don't have to do everything by the book. I heard some people go and say, "Oh, this inheritance and dependency injection, that's just in college. You don't need that in real world software." You'll hear that, right? And then there are the third type. The third type who just don't know. They really just don't know. Like they haven't heard about the standard. And that's why you will see people like Elbik from the Uzbek community day and night on LinkedIn. You will see him posting posters, putting, notes, translations. These are the advocates, the people that are doing an outreach. So nobody would have an excuse and say, "Oh, I've never heard about this standard thing," right? I've even heard
Mhm.
some people that there's this guy from Turkey. He was talking about the underscores and all that kind of stuff, and he said, "Here's a standard, you can follow it." And we were like, "Well, that's just some guy's standard." I said, "Okay, show me your standard." There's no standard, right? It's an invitation to chaos, you know. I don't know. Come up with a standard or follow the standard. Otherwise, you're just breeding chaos. So that's the reason, yeah, like back to your question on localization,
Mhm.
this is basically this. It gives DNA into the errors that you're seeing, so you are aware immediately. You can detect immediately where this problem is. Like I'll tell you this, you'll see something like this: invalid student orchestration exception. You know not just what happened, but where it happened without you reading anything else other than this just one class. Oh, so the orchestration service received an input and it marked it as invalid. So it's not the database, it's not your brokers, it's not your foundation or processing service. This is happening right under the exposure layer. Show me one logging mechanism that can give you that feedback with one name for an exception. None.
Yeah,
None.
I see.
Zero.
I see this as really valuable. I
Yep.
think only if you haven't been into the logging and the exception handling chaos that you can be,
Yep.
you are not welcoming this and appreciating.
The scary thing about this is that you have systems like if you own a Tesla or an electric car that has a lot of computers in it, right? A lot of these systems are not standardized. So when an issue happens in these systems, right, they call it like safety mechanism, right? So they wrap all that chaos with security measures. But one faultiness in that system could kill someone. You want to see what a faulty system looks like? Let me show you what a non-standardized faulty system looks like. This one is a little bit disturbing, so just heads up. Like what you're gonna see is a little bit disturbing. So tell me guys if you can see this YouTube video. Can you see the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah?
but
Okay, cool.
mhm.
So this is a Tesla car, right? Obviously, the system went rogue. This is what you don't see in the news and all that. The system went rogue, like the guy lost complete control. He's not drunk. The autopilot went completely out of control and it can't see anymore.
Oh my god.
Watch this. Watch this. I'm not going to tell you how many people it hurt. I'm not going to tell you how many people it may have killed. I'm just showing you. Look. that guy is gone. Like that guy on the cart is gone. Here is what a non test driven, not properly standardized, chaotic system can do. It can kill people. I don't think people are taking this seriously enough, right? And then you'll also hear the people that will say crazy stuff like, well, it's just a grocery shop. Why do we have to care so much? Well, it's a habit. I'm trying to help you build a habit of writing proper software because someday you will be put in the, by the way, that car caught on fire. Do you see the fire on the left?
Mm.
Right? So what I'm trying to tell you, by the way, there's many of these accidents, and I don't have anything against Tesla or Musk or any of these people, but I'm just trying to tell you, give me 1 second. What I'm trying to tell you is the when people like software today, Milan, is involved in rocket ships that go to space. It's involved in medical devices. It's involved in electric cars, autopilots, things that switch lanes on the highway, oil pumping stations in the middle of the ocean, right? I've seen it all. I've seen all these different fields. Electronic banking. Like imagine you just got your salary and someone just decided that they don't want to test drive their software and your salary didn't go through in the bank account and now you're charged draft fee, you can't pay your rent, the landlord calls the police on you, your life is destroyed because one engineer out there decided they don't want to do their job right, right? So just remember that Tesla story. Nothing specific about the Tesla, it's just about generically building systems that are not test driven, not properly standardized. People's, by the way, people always blame us for this. People will go and say, well, following your standard takes so long. Well, would you rather spend 2 or 3 extra months to build something proper and then move on? Or would you rather release early and spend the rest of your life debugging, fixing bugs, and because the business is never going to stop asking you for more features. Like a lot of people say this, oh, let's just release now, and then we will circle back later to clean up that tick debt. Does that sound familiar? Kailu, have you ever heard that? What about you, Omar? Have you ever heard this before? Oh, let's just get this out the door, and then let's have our backlog of tick debt, and we will have until December to do everything we want. 2 weeks after you go live, someone comes down and be like, oh, the executive wants us to implement this new feature.
It's like everyday life. Basically, the first version is actually pure tech debt. Like,
I hope you can. No, this is. I'm just half joking, but this is one of my favorite pieces about chaotic system. I think Kylo, did you want to say something before I show people this? Kylo, did you want to say something?
Can you not hear me? Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
now I can. Now I can.
Okay, I was gonna say like yeah, what are you gonna do, right? The business, they're the bosses, right? They pay you money, right? And you living like
We
for
just
that
find another
money.
business.
Yeah.
Just find another business. Okay, now watch this. This is really cool. Check this out. I hope you can hear it. I don't know if you will, but I hope you can. Can you hear that guy talking?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. It's a
Can
classic.
can you actually see the text on the screen though? Oh, it's so bad. I need a real good text because um let's see. Oh, it's so bad that the text is terrible. But basically he was talking about like it's not the actual translation of what actually he's saying in his language, but I thought it was hilarious because he's talking about real life events. Yeah, you can see the text, right? Do you see that little text
Yeah.
at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Watch this. An agile company. Let's go.
Let's do stability later.
He says,
nice to nice to him.
he said, "Dude, why don't we have backups? It was a nice to wait, 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 wait. Wait, wait, wait. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's so real though. It's just so scary. Anyway, let's take one question. Dinesh says, "Hi. What if, in case of a product that has not followed the standards at all and has been there for 20 years plus, and I'm asked to implement a requirement? What do I need to do?" And then he said, "I mean, do I need to follow a standard in a legacy?" Yeah, you start breaking out that code. You have two options. You start breaking pieces of that code and make them standard compliant, or you just propose rewriting the entire system, like putting the existing system on sunset mode and basically start rewriting it. And that's the hardest part. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes you go and say, okay, we have this legacy code, put it on sunset mode and go build an entirely brand new system, right? And stop modernizing. Or the one that basically Robert, not Martin Fowler, would basically say, pick up that legacy system and start breaking it into smaller pieces. That's the way to go about it. I think it's still in his literature somewhere. Let me just see here. Martin Fowler. Martin Fowler is the inventor of microservices architecture. He has his own blog, and here's one of the yeah, that's his website. Martin Fowler is a very smart guy and he's a very kind person too. And look at his literature in so many different fields, but mainly architecture. He's a very smart guy when it comes to these pieces. There is a place here where he basically said, you never migrate, like you never start with a microservices architecture from the get-go. I see a lot of people kind of like that idea. Like they go and say, oh, let's just start with microservices from the get-go. That's a very bad idea. You already have a monolithic system and you start breaking that system into smaller pieces, and that's the way to go. But you can't just say, oh, since everyone else is writing crap, then I may as well just go write crap too. That's not that's not the right way to do this, because it takes away from your own time. You're not learning new skill sets. You're just following what everyone else is following, and then you end up in this dark place where you're depressed, you're sad, you're not learning anything. Um, it just you turn into an agent of chaos because you've been writing chaos code for all this time, right? So you start like when you see someone else comes after you and they start saying, "Oh, we need to modernize things," you'll just kill their spirit because yours has been killed, right? So you turn into you become a part of the machine, a part of the system, right? So that's my advice. My advice is break apart, break apart, break apart this system and basically start writing standardized system. That's the way to do it.
But that's not the hardest thing that you will come up to, because convincing the other people to follow that will be
That's the hard part.
yeah the
That's
hard
that,
part.
that's the real hard part. Uh,
I think like this profession is extremely opinionated,
yes,
and I think it's our responsibility is to find something that clicks with us. With like I personally like found like Hassan, other than he's like great guy to hang out with, but like standard clicked. At least like most of it, the pieces I read and the code I saw like here the group writing, it made sense to me, and I think everyone needs to find their thing. As well, I think, right? Uh,
absolutely.
right, yeah, it's kind of because like there is fights. Like on my LinkedIn posts, there is like fights between
Oh
people and
yeah,
how
all day
things are.
long,
Yeah, which
all
is
day
like
long.
sad
Uh,
to see.
I personally, what I tell people is don't engage in arguments. By the way, I didn't want to be in some of the positions that I had in the past. I didn't really want to be a manager. I had to be a manager so I can enforce certain policies and standards and all that because I started realizing, and I don't think a lot of engineers realize this yet. Having the right answers is not enough. Like knowing the right answer to solving a problem is not enough. You have to have charisma, you have to have power, you have to have a personality where you can talk to people and convince them with your ideas and go out there and advocate for your ideas. I can tell you right now, 80 to 90% of software engineers think, well, if I show them that it works, that's enough. Nope. It was never enough. I think this industry is 80% communication skills and only 20% technical skills. If you can't convince the team that you're working with about your ideas and standards and principles, right, they'll just die. These ideas will just die. I can tell you right now, in every software engineering team, in every corner on this earth, there is always two or three people that are angry all the time. And you tell them why. I said, because I told them not to do that, and now we're doing this, and now we have to clean this up, right? Well, it's a skill set. Communication is a skill set. You need to build that skill set, right? Also, like Gregory was saying, you manage by doing as well. I'm hands-on. Like I was telling people, okay, I'm gonna manage 40% of the time. I'll be in these stupid meetings, do PowerPoint slides, but the rest of the 60% of the time, I'm gonna be writing code with people, right? Not just we can hands off and you guys go and figure it out and then give it a nice name like I'm letting them making decisions on their own because I'm a cool manager. Let them do whatever they want. Well, they're going to kill each other. They're going to basically fight with each other and they're going to have disagreements and someone has to step in and kind of call it, right? Usually some other managers who are not very technically hands-on, they will go hire a tech lead. So they're a manager and then a tech lead and then a bunch of engineers. Someone needs to be there to basically say, let's hold on to this standard. And then when this guy leaves, after a half-baked product full of bugs get delivered and he gets his promotion or reward, when this guy leaves, it just chaos erupts. Not that this is anything I've ever seen before or from personal experience or anything. I'm just kind of making fantasies, like it's all fiction, right? Right,
Yeah,
Omar?
sounds like
Yeah.
that.
So, 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 so anyway, listen, guys. I'll let's connect again tomorrow. Milan, tomorrow we're gonna be shifting focus on back to the AI processing service. Omar, I know you told me you pushed some code on the AI processing service for that test. We can take a look at that tomorrow then, and see how far we can take it. What do you think?
I think we're done there, no?
Oh, you already resolved it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I made it pass, but I don't think we have more validation to do.
Yeah, other than this one piece, the only thing that's gonna be left for us is to handle the external exceptions, localize them, handle the service exception, localize it, and then that
Yeah, yeah,
service
yeah,
is done.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's do that tomorrow and then move forward. We'll see where Milan is at, pick up where he left off. Milan, your last day before you go on vacay is Friday, right?
Will be tomorrow. I can't join, but day after I will join. So, and
Okay,
that's the last day, and then I'll
gotcha.
be on
Okay,
vacation. Yeah.
so you're with us tomorrow, and then after that, okay.
Tom-
So, so Omar, I don't know if I told you this. Milan's going on like 4 week kind of vacation, like a month vacation. So we're gonna have to pick up where he left off. So let's push through with that and get the rest of it done. I think he got done most of the pieces that we needed. We just need to look at it and make sure everything looks good, and we stitch them up together, and then we start the fun part, which is testing end to end to see how we can so easily spin up a database for an integration test. We can spin up a database, and add some random data in it and start kind of generating. So we'll see how that goes. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Let's connect again tomorrow. And
Thanks.
Milan, if you can't join us tomorrow, please enjoy your vacation. Bon voyage. Take care, my friend. Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.